What's up, y'all? It's Zach with Living Corporate. I'm so excited. So look, I've been telling y'all I've been excited for a while. And I keep saying that. I know it's like, honestly, frankly, it's almost like a little catchphrase at the top of all these shows. The reality is I've been excited for a long time because every week that I come here with y'all to share some conversation with y'all, I'm excited to be exercising my voice. I'm excited to be walking in my purpose. I'm excited to be moving closer and closer to my goal, which is to really be focused on living corporate full time, right? Where that's all I'm really prioritizing. And the day, I'm going to add grateful, because today marks the day that I am focused on living corporate full time. That's right. Sound man, put the applause in, put the cheers and the claps in. That's right. Put some air horns in there too. Let's go crazy. Do some other stuff in. You know what I'm saying? It's a big day. I'm so excited and thankful and grateful. Some context, right? Like, Living Corporate came together back in 2018, really as an effort to talk about the real experiences of Black and brown people. It was meant really to be a dissent to the white-centric bull that a lot of organizations perpetrate. It was meant to be a dissent to the common corporatized diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that I was experiencing. It was meant to be a dissent to ERG programs that were really meant to just kind of pacify non-white, non-male, non-Christian groups and not really meant to empower them. It started as that. And it started as me looking for a space to not only exercise my own voice, but invite others to speak candidly about the world of work for historically marginalized people in a way that would provide uplift, encouragement, affirmation, guidance, education for other people. And time went on and on and on. And I remember, because I built Living Corporate and it was launched when I worked at PwC. And then I remember telling people about the idea. And I remember people that looked like me going, "You think that's a really good idea? I mean, that seems kind of dangerous. You're going to do that and have a job?" I was like, "Yeah, I am." And I got a lot of crazy looks. And I remember I went from Capgemini to then I went to PwC, right? So I launched it when I was at Capgemini. If I said PwC, I'm sorry, my bad, y'all. I launched it when I was at Capgemini. Then I go to PwC. And PwC, I remember like every other month, like other managers, directors, partners, they would ask me what I do, or they would find my podcast somewhere. They'd find my content somewhere and they go, "Have you cleared this with Tim Ryan? Or have you cleared this with ethics and compliance? Or have you cleared this with assurance?" Or whatever they'd be saying, right? And I would always say, "No." Or I'd say, "Tim Ryan knows about my podcast. I sent him an episode and he replied." To which they always gave me these weird looks. But it was always interesting because I'd be on these projects at PwC and be doing great. And all of a sudden, when they hear my podcast, all of a sudden my performance ratings would go bad. But my performance didn't change. There was a lot of like people projecting on me at PwC and at Capgemini. And frankly, throughout really this whole time, like, how is it possible that he could be building something like this? Because you go to the website, as y'all know, if you're a long-time follower of Living Corporate and you're a subscriber on the website, you know, like, it's a fairly robust experience, right? You can create a profile, you can like select your interests. There's all kinds of things you can be doing. If you look at like the website and you look at the catalog, right? Because there's hundreds upon hundreds, like literally almost like 900 podcasts. They're all not me. But if I tell you that Living Corporate is my company, and then you see all this content, you project, right? You start making assumptions. Anyway, people would look on there and say, "Oh man, you've interviewed all these brands, or you've talked to all these leaders. Like, how are you able to do that? How are you able to do that and still work here?" And and how are you able to produce what's going on? I can't figure you out, because you're a star here at this 9-to-5 job, but then you're telling me that your real passion is this company that you built. And I remember people telling me that living corporate was a cute niche idea, but was never going to really amount to anything. I remember people telling me that it was dangerous for me to have authentic conversations about historically marginalized experience. I remember people threatening me to stop doing living corporate. I've had people tell me all sorts of things. As many encouraging emails as I get some rough exchanges too. And I stand here or sit here in front of y'all, this mic, and I'm gonna tell y'all, it feels so liberating to be in a position where living corporate can be the thing that we build and that we continue to develop. You know, a lot of you experience living corporate as a podcast. The reality is that living corporate is a lot of things. It all serves one mission: to connect Black and brown talent to organizations that want to engage them, right? So we do that through our media and marketing campaigns. So shout out to Pfizer, right? They're an incredible partner. They've been a partner with us for years. Shout out to Fama. Shout out to Textio. And shout out to AWS. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to LiveRant back in the day. Cam, I see you, boy. Shout out to Black Men in Tech. We have some incredible partners, active partners, clients we've had in the past, all still friends. Shout out to Felix and Doximity. Because as much discouragement as I've received, as much like low-key hating, to be honest with you, and outright attempts at sabotage, and even people hating on my pod and hating on Living Corporate as a brand, and I turn around and they copy my brand, like my stuff is Living Corporate. I see somebody talking about corporate for the culture. I'm like, what? You was the one asking me to help build your pod. Now I see you copying my stuff, almost copying my branding. You know what I'm saying? It's very strange behavior. Anyway, as much of that was happening, we've also been affirmed in the people that have worked alongside us. And so, like I said, we do a lot of different things. So, of course, we have our media production, our branding and campaigns. We also have our consulting, our DEI consulting, and our organizational assessment and data analytics, where we take your HR data and we build visualizations and then give you strategic and tactical recommendations as to what to do with that data. We also have a learning platform. That's right, y'all. We have launched a learning platform. I know, it's crazy, right? We've taken all of the thought leadership that we've been building over the past going on 5.5 years, and we've modularized it all into a training experience, a virtual training experience. If you're listening to this and you work at a company, perhaps the company you work for will choose to partner with Living Corporate, and you will have that experience. It is not meant to be like a B2C thing. It's a B2B offering. So I'm not going to be selling access to you, individual person. Like I just don't do that. I don't believe in selling B2C. Like, I'm not hating on that model. It's just not for me. It feels gross to me. And so I'm excited about the various ways that we're doing this, right? That we're pushing for workplace fairness and equity, that we're pushing for employee engagement and connection, and providing opportunity for education, for aspirational allies, as well as new careerists, that we're pushing for insight delivery against folks' organizational data sets. Like, these are things that I'm passionate about. And Living Corporate was never going to just be a podcast, right? Like, Living Corporate is a network. It's a media consultancy. We do all types of work. And I'm thankful for the fact that we're now in a place where this podcast that you listen to every single week will not only be a place where we continue to center and amplify historically marginalized voices, but where we're going to come to you and talk to you about the dope stuff that we're doing across the organization. We're going to come to you and talk to you about some of our case studies. We're going to bring on clients. We're going to have really fire conversations. We're going to challenge one another, right? I'm just really appreciative of the fact that we're in this place today. And you're going to hear a lot more of me. I know, like, if you hear me every week, like, how am I going to hear more of you? I'm telling you, you're going to hear more of me. We have new mailing lists, right? And so we have different methods and means and avenues of communication that we're rolling out. We have the Living Corporate Collective. The Living Corporate Collective. So I don't know if y'all have heard of this organization. It's called CEO Action. And CEO Action is really like shiny PR vaporware, right? They don't really do anything. Now, the people behind CEO Action will tell you that's not true, that they do quite a bit of things. But I've talked to the people that actually lead CEO Action, and they've told me, hey, we don't really do anything. And we shouldn't really be doing this at all. But it's phenomenal PR, right? I was always frustrated by CEO Action because here you have this brand that has the ability to attract so many other brands and get them to do something. And all you did was get them to sign a pledge to commit to something with no vehicle for accountability and leverage that goodwill to sell them things. And that's what CEO Action is. The Living Corporate Collective is really meant to be an authentic response to that effort. It's meant to be a space that shares resources, that meets monthly to talk about critical issues, that invites collaboration and strategic guidance on the most pressing matters of the day as it pertains to workplace equity, employee engagement, employee retention, leadership development, and employee wellness. So it is an invite-only space. You have to register. You have to be invited, and or if I give you a link, or if Shanisha White, Dr. Shanisha White, who is our head of corporate community, engages with you. But it's a space. It's not a space you can just join. Is my point. Like you have to be invited in some way or engaged in some way to actually be a part. But the point is that every month we're gonna come together and have like really critical conversations where we share insight and research and resources and invite dialogue amongst the collective, and where we really nurture true community, intra-community, and where we nurture belonging for those leaders to mobilize and do something of impact. So right now, we're in a season, in a moment where DEI is a curse word. It's a bad term. The Living Corporate Collective means to be a space where we galvanize, organize, strategize, and execute for the sake of workplace fairness, right? So I'm excited about the Living Corporate Collective, a virtual community space for DEI, HR, and people leaders. I'm excited about the tangible things it's going to provide to the members of that collective. I'm excited about the actual thought leadership that's going to come out of that collective. And I'm excited about the first event we're going to have on August 15th. And so if you're interested in joining the Living Corporate Collective, if you're interested in learning more about the Living Corporate Collective, if you're interested in understanding what makes our space differentiated from all these other virtual spaces, or what makes them very similar, right? Because all these spaces are not bad. Email me at zach@living-corporate.com. Again, that's zach@living-corporate.com. It's funny. I was sitting down with somebody yesterday, and it's curious, right? Like, just how ironic this DEI space can be. In that, I was sitting down with somebody, and like, I would think that they would call themselves an ally or an ally champion or whatever, the co-conspirator or whatever. And I was telling them about the Living Corporate Collective, and I was like walking them through like all the things that we're doing. Right. And like, look, I'm not saying I'm like the best communicator in the world. I'm pretty good at talking though. And I don't really come with half-baked ideas. So I was talking about the fact that, hey, look, the space is built. We have staff focused on this. We're doing this, we're doing that. We have this community. People have already signed up. We have dozens of people that have already said, yes, they want to be a part of this. I'd love your support. And the first thing they said was, do you know how hard this is? And I'm looking at her like, ma'am, do you know what we've built already? Like, and I think it's challenging, right? Like in this season, in this moment, like people project their limitations of themselves on you, right? So they can't imagine that you've done something that could be special or different. They can't imagine that you've built something that could actually make a difference. And so what they do is they question if what you're doing is real, or if what you're doing can make a change, or if what you're doing can be of any type of significance at all. And it's important that you know in those moments when people do that to you, if you ever experience that, they're projecting themselves onto you. So they're not talking to you. They're talking to themselves, right? I know that corporate America has a tendency to micro-invalidate you along your journey so that you can remain dependent and insecure. And I want you to know that there's nothing wrong with keeping a 9-to-5 job at all. I hope that you never keep a job out of fear or feel like you have to stay at a place out of fear or insecurity. I hope that you reject any language that would insinuate you are not good enough, that you are not adequate, or frankly, capable beyond measure. I hope that you would find freedom in the reality that you are enough. And I hope that you would find peace in the power that is your voice. That's the journey I'm on, selfishly, right now, at Living Corporate. That's the journey this team is on at Living Corporate. Dr. White, Mike Schmidt, Aaron DiCaprio, Justin Blyden. So many more people. Amy C. Waninger, Lonnie, Wendy, right? Nubiana. We have a lot of people over here. We're all building as we all find our individual voices, our collective voice, and as we also journey to help you find yours. So that you can be, if not wholly free, at least a little bit more free than when you started messing with us. You know what I'm saying? That's my goal. That's my dream. And I'm thankful to be living it right now with y'all. So, look, all this to say, what's the headline? What are the bullet points? All right. I'm doing Living Corporate full time. Living Corporate offers DEI consulting and organizational analytics, training and development. We have an executive community called the Living Corporate Collective that launches on the 15th of August. That's where our first event's going to be. If you want to learn more, email me, zach@living-corporate.com. We do all sorts of branding campaigns and communication campaigns for huge multinational brands. Shout out to Pfizer. And we're not going nowhere. Okay? We're not going nowhere. I love y'all. We're going to get to this conversation with Shanisha. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
What's up, y'all? It's Shanisha for another Real Talk Tuesday, and I am excited because today we'll be discussing a shared vision, and we have someone who can definitely help fill us in on what is a shared vision, and also just really dive into more of the ins and outs, right? So let me tell you about our guest today. Our guest is a CEO. I should say the CEO and president at Malenta Therapeutics. She took over as CEO and sought to rebuild the culture by implementing a people-first leadership approach. This turned Malenta around during a financial turbulent time in less than 3 years, resulting in an increase in product revenue from 58 million. Let me repeat that. From 58 million in 2020 to nearly 100 million in the past year. She believes a company can only be successful when you have a dedicated, happy, and high-performing team aligned on a shared vision. Because a business plan, no matter how good, cannot be executed with excellence without a high-performing team to support it. Let's welcome our guest, Christine Miller. Christine, welcome to Living Corporate. How are you?
I'm good. Even better now that I'm here, and I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me.
Absolutely. So I'm super excited to dive into this conversation, but I know this bio is not all inclusive of who is Christine Miller. So if you could just share with us, like, who is Christine? What makes up Christine? Like, what makes Christine happy? Who is she? What is her passion? Like, who is Christine?
Well, I have to say, when people, ask me that question, they usually want to know the things that I do. But I actually tried to stay really grounded in my God-given purpose, which is to help people live better lives through problem solving. And that purpose takes on a lot of different forms. So I'm a wife, I'm a mother of a 12-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old son. I'm also a daughter of 2 great parents and an older sister to a sister and a brother. I love to play tennis. That's my new thing. I've gotten to tennis lately. I'm really trying to kill it on the courts. And I like to work out and stay fit and healthy. And, I'm also a leader, but I'm a leader in different places and spaces.
Wonderful. And I love how you broke down of who you are and what you do. And I think many times, like you said, when we ask that question, like, well, who are you? Do you want to know who I am, or do you want to know what I do? And I think many times people answer with, what do I do, right? So again, it's a pleasure to have you here with us. And thank you so much for sharing more of who you are. So let's dive a little bit about this leadership, right? You mentioned that you are a leader, and as I read earlier, you are the CEO and president at a thriving company, right? So how did you come into the role of president and CEO for Malenta? Like, how did this even come all about?
Well, I definitely believe my steps were ordered because it happened in quite, I feel like, miraculous way where like everything, all the experiences in my life kind of led to that very moment. But one day, which seemed like it was out of the blue, I got a call from an executive recruiter because I actually was actively looking for my next leadership role. I wanted the opportunity to transform a company. And this executive recruiter calls me and starts asking me a bunch of questions, like, what's your experience with hospital and antibiotics and all this kind of stuff. And so I, answered all her questions. And then she said, I have the perfect job for you. And I was like, wow, that's like, okay. Well, you now have to tell me what it is. And she said, the CEO of Malenta Therapeutics. And my response was like, wow, because I knew Melinda. In my previous role, we were very focused on expanding our portfolio, looking for assets. And I was very familiar with the portfolio that Melinda had acquired from the medicines company. And when I got the reach out from the recruiter, it's because the company had just gone through a financial restructuring and was acquired by Deerfield Management, which is an amazing private equity firm that's focused on healthcare. And they were looking for a leader that could transform the company. And I pitched them my vision for the company, which included diversifying the portfolio, but more importantly, really putting a focus on building a high-performing team by putting people first. And they completely supported that strategic vision, and I ended up joining the company in August of 2020.
I think that's really amazing, and I honestly am not sure if many of our listeners and just people in general really understand the value in networking and engaging with recruiters and just really always staying ready so you never have to get ready. So I'm very sure like that conversation between you and her really showcased your value and were able to present yourself in a way, because I mean, come on, for someone to come to you and say, I have a job for you as a CEO, like how often does that really happen? And then how often does that really happen to women, Black and brown women of color? Like that's amazing. So shout out to you, because I think that's really huge. And just what you have done with transforming Melinda, I mean, it speaks, numbers don't lie, right? Like it speaks for itself. So with that, what was your view, or what is your view for diversity, equity, inclusion from the top? And what I mean by that is, as you sit in your seat as the head of this amazing organization, what is your viewpoint? What is your view, your expansion perspective of diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I'm glad you actually said the words out, diversity, equity, and inclusion, because a lot of people just refer to DE&I. And I think the acronym does not give the topic enough consideration. It doesn't give it the power that it really needs to have, especially when it comes to leading businesses. At first, I think it's key to have diversity, right? To have diversity of race and gender and background and experiences. And you can't just have the diversity without having the equity, right? So really being thoughtful about how do you pay people, reward people, promote people, and creating an environment where, you know, there's equity there. And equity doesn't mean equal, right? And I think that's what people forget, that equity is making sure that people have the access, the same level of access depending on where they're coming from, and creating and making those bridges. And then the last piece that is absolutely important is being inclusive and making sure that everyone has a seat around the table, has a voice, and can be and is considered. The voices are heard, that you hear from everyone. And what I know, especially being a leader, is that if you're not intentional about creating an environment where diversity, equity, and inclusion are not just considered, but is practiced and is done in an intentional way, it doesn't happen. And, you know, you see so many, people getting left behind in the standard processes of companies, especially women of color and Black women in particular. You see that Black women are disproportionately impacted by what they call the broken rung, where you see that as people are going up the ladder, women, people of color, but specifically African American women, end up leaving corporate America because they don't have all the supports they need in an equitable way to advance their career. And so unless it's intentional and it's driven by a tone at the top and it's measured, it doesn't happen. Not consistently.
Yes. And I think you touched on something really big there, like the tone from the top, right? So, you being a woman of color, a Black woman, like being in a position to make sure that when we think about diversity, equity, inclusion, like there's really a focus there and it's really being done. I think that many of the organizations, they may have it as a pillar, or sometimes it's a mention as things were trending back around the time we think about George Floyd. So now being in these spaces, there are many organizations where you hear less and less about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And if it's not being driven from the top down, then how are we really implementing these things? And you being a people leader and having a team that's dedicated, happy, and high performing, you're able to create that balance. Would you say with all three, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yeah, so it really comes down to who do you have at the table, right? Do you have a diverse group around the table who are going to ask the questions? We have a management team um, that is driving, the day-to-day operations of our business and the considerations around hiring, etc. And our team is diverse. We are gender diverse and we're ethnically diverse. And so, what I find about diverse teams is that there's less apprehension to have the tough conversations around these topics.
Would you say that was intentional on your part to have a diverse team?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The intention was to have a diverse team, and we try to be very thoughtful about that. We have a fair amount of women in leadership positions in the company, and it really has to be an intentional thing when it comes to recruiting, making sure you have a diverse slate of candidates for consideration. It's really key that this happens. If you're not intentional about it, if it's just box checking, you really find that it doesn't consistently happen. And I think this is really the opportunity in corporate America, is to not just focus on checking boxes, but to focus on doing the right thing. And our company should look more like the societies that we live in.
Oh, that's really powerful. That's really, really
Right?
powerful.
America is a diverse nation. The
Right.
problem is that people tend to go to the pot of their specific community as opposed to looking at the broader America and say, like, do we have workforces that are more reflective of America? And I'm not saying it's easy to do this, right? It creates there's a lot of intentionality that's needed to do, a lot of networking that you need to do. And I think especially for people of color, as we help to mentor and create awareness, and there's great organizations that help do this, it makes it more feasible, more possible. And there has been progress made, not as much progress as I would like to think. I mean, when I started in the industry, I would say there was like one or two other people that looked like me. And I was in a big pharma, and it was like one or two people that looked like me, like as peers. And at the senior management level, we happened to have one person that looked like me. Um, and he's a remarkable person. It's Ken Frazier. I started at Merck. He was a general counsel when I was there in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was really fortunate that he became the CEO of Merck. And what's outstanding is that not only is he a great leader, but he's a great leader that's recognized across, industries. And look at what he's been able to bring to society and to bring to the industry. I mean, there's so much power in the fact that he has that diverse background.
Yes, I think that's super key, to make sure that we're being all inclusive and not just of our specific community. And with you doing that, right, like you having this diverse group, you coming in being super intentional and putting people first, right? So, what are the well? if you can do a two-part breakdown, right? What are the benefits of people first leadership approach? And then if we can circle back to what is people first leadership?
Well, I would actually very simply putting people first is all about creating a positive and productive work environment that everybody is able to reach their full potential and contribute to the success of the organization. That's really, in essence, of what putting people first is. And how you go about doing that is really providing the people in your organization with a voice. That's really important. And that's the approach that I took when I joined Millenta. In my first 90 days, it was all about trying to hear all of the voices in the company. I was really fortunate that I started in COVID. I turned on the lights in the office myself because there was no one in the office. But the benefit of that was I wasn't traveling anywhere. So, and we had Zoom and, Teams, and I was able to meet with everyone in the organization, either through one-on-ones or small group sessions. And I asked them 3 questions. Actually, I did a lot of it sitting here in this chair. One, what's the culture of Millenta? The next question was, what do you want the culture of Millenta to be? And the third is, if you were sitting in my chair as CEO, if you were the CEO of Millenta, what would you do? And those 3 questions really help to guide me in, where I focus with the organization, what we tackled first. And one of the first things that we tackled was co-creating a vision and mission for the company. Where were we headed? How were we going to get there? Really being clear on strategic priorities, both from a business perspective. So what were the strategic business pillars, but then also what were the cultural priorities that we wanted to have as a company. And it was really key to get all those voices and those inputs, because people really want to have an opportunity to be heard and to contribute.
I think many times for many organizations, like we have the self-assessments, right, of, our own performance. And then we have those assessments for the organization as a whole. And many times, the people of the organization may not feel as though they can really voice like their real concerns or things that they would like to see changed or things they would like to see implemented into the organization to make us better. So I think you asking those type of thought-provoking questions, like you said, really helps guide you for where a change needs to be made, guide you for where things can be improved and be made better. So I really enjoy that and bringing them in on the vision, right? So it's not just, hey, Christine Miller here showing up and I have this vision for the organization. You guys take hold of it and do exactly what this vision encompasses, right? So like you're sharing this vision with them and allowing them to have a voice in this. Like outside of you asking those 3 thought-provoking questions, how else did you encourage the people of Millenta to share the vision with you?
Yeah. So as we were putting together and creating our mission and vision, we actually had a lot of workshops where we invited people from different parts of the organization to participate in the actual development of that. I would say the executive committee had to take a lot of ownership in creating a vision and mission, but how we were going to get there, particularly our essential behaviors, was really key. So that's where we had, this cross-functional team really lean in and say, not just the work that we were going to do, but how we were going to do it together. And we were really intentional about saying, we don't want to have just values. we want to be able to say what behaviors we need to show up to have the culture that we all want to be a part of, that we can thrive in. So one of my favorites is we've got your back. Or let me walk in your shoes, right? So you hear the word like let me walk in your shoes, you know that talks about empathy. And we have understand before being understood. That's listening. So we're really intentional about that. And when people feel like they have a voice, then I think it really leans in to that. We also did engagement surveys, by the way, to help to get another, kind of metric, I guess, benchmarking for us, which was also helpful.
So having these different forms of engagement in getting things like the metrics and having those Zoom calls and those kind of like, workshops, how else have you and your leadership, how have you guys worked to improve the company culture and employee engagement? Like, how does that, at the end of the day, impact the bottom line?
Yeah. So, it's an ongoing effort for us, right? Like it's a ongoing, ear to the ground, continuing to ask questions and listen. One of the things that I love doing is Coffee with Christine. I do it every month where, we have about
I think
5.
That's so cute. I think
Yeah,
that's cute. I really like that.
yeah, it's. I mean, truth be told, inside scoop. I was like, I don't drink coffee. I drink tea, but that's okay.
It's okay. I definitely have my black tea in my teapot right now, waiting for me. It's okay. It's okay.
But yeah, we get 5 people. I usually have 5 people from different parts of the organization. We come together. We just had one on Friday, and there's no agenda other than building community. And it's an open forum for anybody to ask any question or share anything that they want to share. And there's also Ask the EC. Our EC is the executive committee. So usually it's 2 of our executive committee members meeting with, again, another small group of 5 people, again, with the same purpose. And this, we just try to create as many forums as we possibly can. We have town halls as well. And then we have a lot of things that we do in the office. And then also when we have, company get together, like our national sales meeting, etc. And what we have seen is when we initially did our first employee engagement survey, as kind of that baseline, that benchmark, we had a score of 69%. It was it was kind of tough because, there wasn't the strategic clarity there. And people didn't know where we were going and why we, where we were headed. And so when putting in place, mission and vision and strategic priorities and what our long-term aspirations were. And by the way, we are always reiterating all of these, kind of foundational things. Every time I'm speaking to people, I'm like, okay, remember, this is what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. We were able to redo our engagement survey a year and a half, 2 years later, and we ended up having a 88% response rate, which is pretty high in terms of engagement. But the actual score was, if you want to call it a score, was a 94%. So, we were able to, really make a change in terms of the way people were experiencing their time at the company, just because we were able to listen to people, really understand what they needed, and then make steps to provide clarity and to provide, change and make changes that people were really looking for in order to thrive in that environment.
I think that is definitely top tier. I think people underestimate open forums, right? Like in this space, no agenda, just me and you, my thoughts, my experiences over the week, the quarter, the semester. I'm able to open up and share with you guys like what is really happening, like at the ground level for you all to be able to really, like take that, the bottom up approach is essentially what I'm gathering here.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I mean, I love a field ride, so I go out, I'm riding the car with people in the field.
Oh no,
I,
you a fielder. You love being on the field. Oh,
I
I
love
love
it because I wanna like I like riding the car with somebody.
it. Right.
And
You
really
want to
and
know.
hearing from them, but also hearing from customers what they need. So this people
Right.
putting people first approach is not just about our internal folks. It's about putting people, our customers, our patients first, and really understanding what it is that are on people's minds and what do they need.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Oh no, I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this. There's nothing better than being out in the field with your leader. I definitely look at it as a partnership. We're going to have a good time. Like when we're
Yep.
out there, we're going to have an amazing time. And
Yep. I
you
love
always
to roll.
right engage with customers that will tell you the truth, right? Just lay it all out
Mhm.
there. This is what we need. This is what our patients need. I really love that. You're very much in tune with the organization again, not just from top down, but bottom up. It's amazing. And you mentioned change, right? So what was the catalyst for you where you were able to turn Melinta around, right? And create such a sustainable business model? Like what was that like for you? What was that change that just took this to the next level? Took this organization to the next level?
Well, listen, I cannot stress enough how amazing the team at Melinta is. We have some of the most dedicated, high integrity, uh, thoughtful, driven people that I've ever worked with. They care so much. This is why, when we talk about our company and our brand, we say unparalleled in passion and purpose. Because I have never worked with such a team that has such passion and purpose. And so that really was the catalyst. The fact that we had so many people who were willing to lean in and do what needed to happen in order to transform the company. And, our pillars for transformation are very simple pillars. One is building that high performance team. The other is driving profitable growth of our current portfolio. The third is focusing on operational excellence. We consider ourselves small but mighty. And then the fourth piece is expanding our portfolio. A part of creating a sustainable business model for us is diversifying our portfolio. So we are no longer an antibiotics only company, although that is a cornerstone of our company. We, given the industry dynamics, we had to diversify. And, really the catalyst of being able to make it happen was the people and making sure that everybody was clear on that shared mission and vision and the aspiration and what we're trying to achieve. And what we're really trying to achieve is to become the leader in acute care. We want to be the go-to company for customers when it comes to providing innovative therapies for people impacted by acute and life-threatening illnesses. And our mission that we're very much all committed to is one that's grounded in access, which is to ensure that all people who need our therapies receive them. And so that's really the big driver for our business and the transformation that we've seen.
I really love this all in total. So when I think about it, I'm thinking people like in patients first, like just that approach overall, like you're putting, I mean, internal, external, just putting it all together where it's working out, where patients are able to be provided that acute care. You guys being that go-to, because nothing is more for me. Okay. Being a pharmacist, nothing is more, sad to me where you have a patient standing at the counter deciding between, this medication or this medication to sustain themselves, right? And just seeing someone make that decision, it's just heartbreaking. I mean, most times I'll pull out anything in my pocket, like, hey, I'll take care of it for you. Like, I would hate for anyone, my mother, grandmother, whoever, to be able to have to make that decision. But the people of the organization, Melinta, if you guys hear me out there, she definitely values you all. You all are valued at the most high level for this organization. I just think it's wonderful. The plans that you have really thought about, put into practice, have been super strategic about, right, to implement for this organization is monumental. And I don't know, how many of us women of color or our Black and brown men and women who are in position like this to really drive the organization forward and really factor in the people. Like, that's really, really huge. So for you, what are any key takeaways that you would like to share?
I mean, well, definitely putting people first, right? Creating that culture that people can thrive in, but creating the environments, right, for your customers, for your patients, that they can get the access and the supports that they need. Providing strategic clarity and really being repetitive about it in terms of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're going to do it, I think is also really, really clear. And really giving people a voice, right? Like, like you said, creating that open forum, the no agenda, just like, let's just,
This
say
is
what's
not
on your mind.
talk, right?
Yeah, that's really, I think, really important.
It really, really is. And I don't want to cut this short, but are there any shout outs?
Shout out my team.
Right. So the entire Melinta family.
Yeah, the Melinta family, they are incredible. I feel extremely honored and blessed. I said that I felt like all my steps were ordered to be here. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be, doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. And I feel blessed to be with a team of people, with an organization who shares my values, shares, my passion, shares my purpose. And so big shout out to the Melinta team.
Shout out to the Melinta team. And you know what, Christine, like, how can people reach out to you if they have like any other questions, like just want to take a dive deep into picking your brain, which I know you're super busy. So we thank you for joining us with the Living Corporate Podcast. But if there's anyone out there that's listening in who will want to know more about, being a people leader, being able to transform an organization, being able to have the bottom up approach and providing strategic clarity, like, how can they reach you?
Well, they can ping me on LinkedIn for sure. I am on LinkedIn. And I do read my messages. So that is definitely an easy way. And people often reach out to me that way. I do respond.
Wonderful. See, guys, she does reach out to the people. Okay, she is about the people, so she will respond to your messages. Okay. So, Christine, thank you so much for joining us today on the Living Corporate Podcast. And that's our show. Be sure to follow Christine on LinkedIn. She does respond to her messages, so feel free to ping her, right? Her green light is on for LinkedIn, which one she's available. And make sure you follow us on Instagram at Living Corp, Twitter at livingcorp_pod, and subscribe to our newsletter on the Living Corporate website. The website has been updated, guys, and it looks so bomb. I know you guys are going to love it. If you have questions you'd like for us to answer and read on the show, I would love to read you guys' questions. Make sure you email us at the Living Corporate Podcast at gmail.com. This has been Shanisha, and you have been listening to the CEO and president of Melinta, Christine Miller. Peace. And that's our show. So I hope you guys really enjoyed our conversation with Christine, right? Like, she is a Black woman, a woman of color who is in a thriving industry, and being able to turn around a therapeutic organization so fast, and I mean, essentially double, right? If not triple their revenue. Like, she really is in tune with her organization. She really puts her people first. She comes up, her and her team have, figured out very unique ways and identifiers to be able to really hear the voice of her people and allowing them to share their voice, and not just completing a survey and, is there any change that takes place after I submit this 2-minute, 5-minute survey? Like, they're really passionate about their organization, about their people, and implementing change and finding new ways to navigate these spaces, and being super creative in how they allow for the people of the organization to share their voice. So I hope that you can take from this conversation something that you can implement within your organization, or voice within your organization, or feel encouraged and empowered to voice your thoughts and your opinions, and really tune in and share the vision of your organization, not just this vision being placed on you and you have to operate in it, right? Like, okay, where do I fit in? What is unique for me and carved out for me? So again, this is Shanisha for Real Talk Tuesdays. So glad that you guys were able to tune in for another episode with me, and I'll get up with you guys soon. Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin for Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.